Imaginary friends. Almost every kid at some point had an imaginary friend. Sometimes it was a superhero, sometimes a talking animal, and sometimes it was just a random buddy only they could see. To adults, it can seem a little strange, like, are they lonely or is something wrong? But in reality, it's one of the most normal parts of growing up. When kids create imaginary friends, they're not just entertaining themselves. They're actually practicing real-world skills. Talking to someone who isn't there helps them work through emotions, solve problems, and rehearse social situations. It's kind of like running a simulation. They get to test out what it's like to share, argue, apologize, or explain things, all in a safe, no-pressure environment. There's also a big creativity boost that comes with it. Kids who invent entire characters and worlds are flexing the same imagination muscles that later fuel storytelling, art, or even problem-solving as adults. In other words, Sparkle the Unicorn or Captain Invisible weren't just playmates, they were brain-training partners, and it's not rare at all. Studies suggest that around a third of children have imaginary friends at some point. The only difference is some kids grow out of it quickly, while others carry those creative worlds with them for years. Parents sometimes worry it's a sign their kid is lonely or odd, but it's actually the opposite. Kids with imaginary friends are usually more social, more creative, and better at expressing themselves. It's like having a private rehearsal space for real life. If you ever spent hours talking to a buddy only you could see, it wasn't weird at all. It was your imagination hard at work, shaping the way you'd communicate and think later on.
Spinning in circles. Another weird childhood habit you probably remember is spinning in circles until you drop to the floor. It didn't matter if it was in the living room, on the playground, or in the middle of the kitchen. You'd just twirl around, arms stretched out, until the whole world turned into a blur. And for some reason, that dizzy crash at the end felt amazing. There's actually a reason kids love doing this. Inside your ears, you've got a system called the vestibular system. It's what helps you balance and tells your brain which way is up. When you spin, that system gets completely overwhelmed. Your inner ear fluid is still swishing around even after you stop moving, which is why the room feels like it's still spinning. For kids, this isn't just fun, it's practice. Their brains are still learning how to process balance, motion, and body control. By spinning, they're basically training their brains and testing their limits. Think of it as a free roller coaster ride powered by your own legs. And it's not just about balance. Kids also love the thrill of changing how reality feels. That strange wobbly dizziness is like a safe little altered state, something new, exciting, and totally harmless. It's the kind of fun you didn't need toys or screens for. Just spin until you collapse, laugh on the floor, then get up and do it all over again. Adults usually stop doing this because, well, it makes you nauseous, and it's not exactly a graceful way to spend your afternoon. But as a kid, spinning in circles was pure entertainment, and secretly, your brain was getting a workout the whole time.
Nail biting. Almost every kid went through it at some point. You'd be sitting in class, zoning out, and by the time the teacher called on you, half your fingernails were gone. Kids don't bite their nails because they're hungry. It's more like an automatic stress reliever. When you're nervous, restless, or just plain bored, your brain looks for something simple to do that takes the edge off. Biting nails gives a tiny hit of comfort, kind of like tapping your foot or fidgeting with a pen. It's a quick way to keep busy and calm down at the same time. That little moment of relief is what makes it stick. The brain gets used to it, and before you know it, it turns into a full-blown habit. That's why even adults still catch themselves doing it before a big meeting, during scary movies, or while waiting for a text reply that takes way too long. The funny part? Nail biters actually end up swallowing a lot of germs from their hands. Sounds disgusting, but studies have found that kids who bite their nails sometimes develop stronger immune systems because of it, accidentally giving their body a crash course in fighting bacteria. Not the healthiest way to train your system, but hey, it explains why some kids rarely got sick. If your childhood fingers looked like they went through a cheese grater, it wasn't just a random gross habit. It was your brain's weird little shortcut for handling stress and boredom. Collecting random useless objects. Every kid had a little treasure collection. Maybe it was shiny rocks, marbles, buttons, or those little plastic bread clips that nobody ever needed but somehow felt valuable. You'd stuff them in a box, hide them under your bed, and guard them like they were gold. On the surface, it looks silly. Why would anyone be proud of a jar full of pebbles or a stack of bottle caps? But to a kid, each one felt special, different from the rest, like a rare artifact only they had the eye to spot. There's actually some science behind this instinct. Humans have always been natural collectors. It goes back to hunter-gatherer days when finding and storing resources was literally how we survived. That little rush of excitement you felt picking up a shiny rock, That was your brain giving you a dopamine reward for discovering something new. Even if it was completely useless, it still triggered the same treasure found feeling. Collections also give kids a sense of ownership and control. When you're small, most of your world is decided for you. What you eat, when you sleep, where you go. But your rock pile or sticker book, that was all yours. No one could tell you which pebble was the best one. You got to decide. And let's be real, part of the fun was showing it off. Trading Pokemon cards on the playground, lining up toy cars, comparing who had the weirdest shaped rock. It was social currency. Even junk can feel priceless when it has a story behind it. Next time you find an old box of childhood treasures and wonder why on earth you saved bottle caps for 3 years straight, it wasn't nonsense. It was your brain tapping into one of the oldest human instincts, finding joy in discovering, collecting, and creating your very own little museum. Repeating words or sounds. If you were a kid, there's a good chance you spent hours repeating the same word or sound over and over. Maybe it was banana, 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 or singing a single line of a song 100 times in a row. Adults might have thought you were annoying or maybe a little bit crazy, but there was actually a reason behind it. Repeating words and sounds helps kids practice language. Every time they say something over and over, their brain is learning how to pronounce it, how it sounds, and how to use it in conversation. It's like running drills in a sports practice, but for speech. There's also a rhythm and sensory side to it. Kids love the way certain sounds feel when they say them, the echoing, the vibration of their own voice. It's a mix of play and learning. The repetition isn't just boring, it's actually helping the brain strengthen the pathways for communication. And then, of course, there's the sheer fun of it. Repeating a word over and over can feel silly and exciting at the same time, especially when someone laughs at it. It's a game, and kids love games. So those endless rounds of pickle, 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 or I'm the fastest runner in the world weren't just random nonsense. They were kids practicing, experimenting, and figuring out the world of sound and language, all while having a ridiculous amount of fun. Eating weird, non-food stuff. Okay, let's be honest. Kids will put almost anything in their mouths. Dirt, glue, crayons, paper, even the corner of the TV remote if nobody's watching. Every classroom had at least one kid casually chewing on their eraser like it was bubblegum. So why does this happen? Part of it is simple curiosity. When you're little, your senses are still figuring out the world, and tasting things is one of the fastest ways to explore. Adults look at a rock and think, that's a rock. A kid looks at a rock and thinks, but what does it taste like? There's also something called pica, which is the tendency to eat non-food items. In some cases, it's linked to the body actually craving certain minerals. For example, kids who chew ice or dirt are sometimes low on iron. So it's not always just random weirdness. Sometimes the body is asking for something it's missing in the strangest way possible. And then there's the texture factor. Paper, chalk, even Play-Doh. These things feel different in your mouth, and for kids, that unusual sensory experience is fascinating. It's like trying to understand the world one bite at a time. Of course, most kids grow out of it. By the time you're older, chewing on your homework isn't quite as socially acceptable. But as a child, the line between food and not food is a lot blurrier. If you ever caught yourself nibbling on crayons or sneaking a taste of glue, don't panic. You weren't alone. It wasn't just a random act of grossness. It was your curious brain, your developing senses, and maybe even your body's chemistry pushing you to explore. So now I've got to ask, out of all these childhood habits, which one do you remember doing the most? Or maybe you had a totally different one that I didn't mention. Drop your favorite in the comments. I'd love to read through them. And hey, if this video made you laugh or brought back some memories, share it with a friend who will get the nostalgia too. And of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video.